What's up, Internet? It is finally over. We survived 2020. Which is good, because I'm not sure how much more of that nonsense I could take. And not just the global pandemic. Seriously, last year really sucked. But fortunately, we have video games. And video games make everything better, right? So, we're going to talk about the 10 games of 2020. Now, if you're new to this channel, and judging by my metrics, that'll be about a third of you. First of all, welcome. Second of all, I do these a little bit differently. See, I don't necessarily talk about the best games that came out last year. No, I talk about the best games I played. I think you get a much more interesting list that way. Besides, if we just played nothing but brand new games, things would get pretty boring, and we would all basically just have one list by the end, wouldn't we? And who wants that? That'd be boring. You came here for my list, which means you want to see my opinion of the best stuff I played. And here we go with some honorable mentions, but before I do have to make one disqualification. As much as it kills me to do so, I have to disqualify Phantasy Star Online 2, just by virtue that it was already on this list a few years ago when it first came out for consoles. But, you know, if I did have an award for game I spent the longest time playing this year, I did sink a tiny bit of time into PSO2. But it's good. It's free, go play it, it's fantastic, it's the best MMO known to man. Anyway, moving on to the actual honorable mentions this year, we have 2 PS4 games. Honorable mention number A, we have Ghost of Tsushima. Hey, it's that Japanese Assassin's Creed everyone wanted Ubisoft to make since they started making Assassin's Creed a franchise and not just a weird spin-off of Prince of Persia. Except it's made by a completely different developer. And it's really damn good, not just a huge time waster. So that's a plus. I do have to complain though, that while it does have this really wildly cool sort of film grain effect in black and white mode, some of the quests require you to actually be able to see colors, and I feel like they didn't think that one through terribly well. Also, I have one other complaint about this game, and I'm only putting it here because I've been meaning to review this for a while, just because it was something that really bugged me. The story to this game is not good for a video game, which is probably a weird thing for me to say, but this game requires you to sort of play the moral compass of the main character, whether you choose to be the assassin or an honorable samurai, except that the game immediately hamstrings you into picking one of those because of plot contrivance, which sucks, because then it sort of takes away from the interactiveness of your entire being here and controlling this character as the little thing that controls his brain. But on the other hand, this was a game I sat through and played in 2 sessions because I was just so engrossed in the story and I liked the characters. Gameplay itself, it's fairly mediocre. If you've ever played an Assassin's Creed game, you've kind of played this. But it's a lot of fun, and it's very damn stylish. And it's since gotten some updates and some upgrades and stuff, which I haven't even seen yet. I'm really excited to get back into this one. Honorable mention number the second is a game with a slightly lower budget. We have Nexomon Extinction, a sequel to a phone game that's basically knockoff Diet Pokemon, except it's better than Pokemon in every single way, because Pokemon's really been sucking wind since, the DS. But this game has an amazing story with tons of plot twists, tons of backstory, and a really just interesting and a fantastic character arc for pretty much everyone involved. This is a really neat game for story. There are some gameplay issues. First and foremost, you can't really tell where any monster is in your little Monsterpedia, which kind of sucks. And it doesn't help that certain monsters are relegated to individual patches of grass in the world. Rarity for monsters means basically nothing, and from a moveset standpoint, there's not really any difference between monsters of the same type because every moveset is basically randomized from a set pool based on the element. So you only really need one of each to see every individual moveset, which is pretty boring. It does have a couple of quality of life issues. Going through your Monsterpedia is very slow and clumsy, and there's some stuttering here and there, as well as monster level being tied entirely to plot progression, and how quick that can develop by the end means you're basically going to end up dumping your entire team just for random monsters you catch, which kind of sucks. But the monster designs are absolutely phenomenal, and I can't wait to see more from this developer. Spoilers, but they did hint that this was going to get a sequel, and you better believe I'm going to be there day one for it. Nexomon Extinction, a damn fine monster-catching RPG. Anyway, moving on to the actual top 10 list proper, we start off with number 10, a little no-name Xbox game I got for $1 from a bargain bin. I wasn't really expecting much. we have Alpha Protocol. I recorded this game for gameplay footage, and I thought, you know, this is just gonna be a generic third-person shooter. I'll play for 5 minutes, get the gameplay footage for my channel, and then, you know, never play it again. Once I stopped recording, I played this game for 8 hours. It was really, really damn good. Because it's more than just a third-person shooter, it's more of an RPG than anything. I think the best way to describe this game would be sort of like a lower-budget diet Mass Effect. Well, Mass Effect when Mass Effect was good, anyway. This is a really cool spy drama with some great characters, some fantastic weapons. I like this game a lot. I love the character building. I kind of wish there was a little bit more depth to your character in terms of like personality and stuff. And this game sort of teases a New Game Plus, which is like the most ineffective New Game Plus I've ever seen, which makes all your progress towards it, i.e. your entire first playthrough, kind of its own standalone isolated thing, which isn't great. And indeed, if you play this game exactly wrong, you can even skip the New Game Plus option altogether. But even then you won't be missing much. Alpha Protocol is not perfect, but it's a fun game, and I honestly want to play a lot more of this now that I'm just talking about it. This game I got for $1, and I would have easily paid full price for this because Alpha Protocol, great game. If you can find it, I suggest you play it if you're into Mass Effect, spy thrillers, or, you know, just cheap, interesting RPGs, because this game is really damn cool. Number 9 on our list is a little less affordable in that it's one of the most expensive Game Boy games I own. We have Nubo, or Nobu. Nobo? However the hell you pronounce this thing. I've seen it pronounced like 20 different ways. This is a marketing tool. It is designed to market a mascot for a chocolate wafer company, of all things, and yet it's really damn good. In fact, I think I kind of needed this game in 2020 because as crap as 2020 was, this was an excellent feel-good game. It is a fantastic little, like, linear cinematic platformer mixed with, like, a point-and-click adventure. There's not really a lot of ways to get yourself stuck or to mess up or something. I, in my infinite knowledge, somehow still managed to do so, but it's still a fantastic feel-good game with some cute little graphics, some fantastic world design, and you can scoop up a baby whale into a bucket and give it to its mummy. You need this game in your life. It's just a shame it's wildly rare and costs like $100. Still, if you've got the kind of budget for it, Nubo is one to keep an eye out for. It may in fact be like the next Painter Momo P. Number 8 is a game I got at Boxing Day last year. That horrible nightmare I choose to try and block out from my memory. We have Astral Chain on the Switch. This game is hyper-stylized, high-speed action with great set pieces, and starts you off in an amazing chase sequence. Yeah, this game's pretty damn cool. I really was impressed with this. Unfortunately, I didn't play a ton of this year. This was kind of one of my biggest regrets, not spending as much time with this game as I could have, but I am really excited to get back into this, and the moment I get some free time, you better believe this is the first thing going on my Switch. Okay, well, second, but this is probably the coolest action game I have played over the past year, and it is one of the most memorable from just its stunning visuals and really cool design of having this like giant sort of like cybernetic demon monster leashed to you to help you fight. This is a very cool idea, and I think that this game executes it very well. And I mean, if nothing else, this game has style points, and if you learn anything from watching me, it's that style points matter. This game is damn cool. Sticking with the theme of Nintendo consoles, we go to number 7, way back in the past, to Xerxes on the NES. Probably the most awkwardly titled NES game there is. This was a weird game I'd been trying to get for a very, very long time, and it was just a little out of my price range. But what you get here is a fantastic combination of run-and-gun platformer shooter, as well as side-scrolling shooter, along with a heaping dose of, I have no idea what the hell I'm doing, how do I open this first door, why the hell are there teleporting doors at the end of the shooter sections, what's going on? This game is not perfect, but you know I have a soft spot for NES games that are flawed, but still ambitious, fun, and always try and do something different. And I can't say I've seen anything else that quite tries to do what Xerxes does. And that is that it tries to like incorporate ancient Japanese myths, to be reincorporated as like a weird cybernetic space story because it's a westernly retranslated thing, but it's interesting, damn it, and I am quite fond of this game. It's not my favorite NES game out there, but I'm damn glad I've got it, and I'm gonna be playing a lot more of this in the new year, I think. I'm definitely putting this on the board for potential reviews in the near future, because this game is pretty cool. Going on to number 6, we're gonna jump back to the Switch for Golfin Story. Okay, here's the thing about me. I don't give a shit about sport ball. I don't. Sport ball games have, like, no interest to me, unless maybe they've got, like, some fun hook. And I care even less about Golfin. Unless, of course, we're talking about Candy Stand Flash Mini Golfin, in which case, it's basically one of the greatest Flash games ever created. Go play that on Flashpoint right now, because, man, it's totally worth it. But either way, this game does do something different. It gives you Golfin, but it also throws in a metric crap ton of secrets, RPG elements, a really fun underdog plot, and some really fun gimmicks for each course that set them apart from one another. I really like this game, and if nothing else, it contains Frisbee, and I really like Frisbee. So you know what? Golfin Story, you're okay in my books. You might be the best sport ball thing I have played since Sanrio Smash Ball? Yeah, Sanrio Smash was pretty good. We'll go with that. We're gonna jump away from Nintendo consoles with good old number 5, an import shooter on the Xbox 360, and I know what you're thinking. Import? Xbox 360? Well, yes, there was one company that did release their library as actually workable imports on the 360. That was Cave, and we're here with their next game, Mushahime Futari version 1.5. Don't have the DLC, but the great thing is, it's for some baffling reason on the American Xbox 360 market, so that's cool. This is a fantastic bullet hell shooter, and I don't have a ton of experience with these sorts of genres. You can kind of see my original take on this sort of genre on their previous release I've talked about, which was Dodonpachi Resurrection. This game is quite possibly the most beautiful shmup I've ever seen. It's got this fantastic sort of high fantasy Sylvan theme. There's dragons, there's dinosaurs, giant insects, tons of explosions, fantastically mesmerizing bullet patterns that are just absolutely gorgeous. This game is amazing. I think this is probably one of the coolest imports you can have for your Xbox 360 of all, like, 5 of them, and I think this one is absolutely worth it, especially if you're into shmups, because there's so many different modes and features. There's the arcade mode, Xbox mode, each mode has like 4 different variations of the character you can play as. There is so much here, all tied to a gorgeous aesthetic, and absolutely a banger of a soundtrack. The soundtrack to this game is absolutely fantastic, and is worth a listen alone, even if you don't have interest in these sorts of games. Importing for the Xbox 360 is not a cheap prospect, mainly because they're all excellent shmups. That is a very expensive thing to try and get into, but this one, definitely worth it. I am quite a big fan of Mushahime Futari, and at some point I will be sinking myself into the Black Label DLC as soon as I can remember how badly they misspelled the name of this thing on the Xbox Marketplace. Again, why is it on there? The game isn't, but the DLC is. Who knows? But I'm thankful for it. Speaking of things I'm thankful for, we move on to number 4, a game I have been trying to get a hold of for, well, about as long as I've had a PS2, really, so about a decade or so. We have Graffiti Kingdom, a game I was told about all the way back in high school when I was told that, in fact, there was a game like Amazing Island on the GameCube, except good in that it had an actual game tied to it. That was this game. Graffiti Kingdom is something of a clumsy sort of hack and slash 3D adventure sort of game, with an excellent character creator. Yes, the actual combat and platforming is a bit clumsy. Yes, the camera's not great, but it's still one of the most interesting and fun games I've played in recent years. I think this is a fantastic pickup, and what makes me really sad is it seems to be getting rarer and harder to find, which is a damn shame because I think this is a must-have if you can get past the whole, just not fantastic nature of everything but the creator. But that said, this is probably the best actual game with a character creator like this, where you can just draw and design your own characters and bring them to life in this world around you. This is a very fascinating game and a ton of fun, and I think that if you have any interest in the PS2, you should keep an eye out for this one, especially if you like games with character creators, or you have any spark of creativity in you, because you'll be able to do tons and tons of insane things with this character creator, if you take the time to really work with it. And I think that's fantastic. It really puts your hero in this world, and that alone is worth the pickup. I mean, that was what made me want to play Amazing Island all the way back in the day, despite how crap that game was. This game, it's Amazing Island, but an actual game. And that's honestly probably the nicest and most complimentary and honest thing I can say about this game. Sticking to the theme of PlayStation properties, we're going to move on to number 3, which is an RPG series that I've always had a fascination with, but I never had the chance to really play it. Well, this year, seeing as we were stuck indoors for like all of it, I finally had the chance to go in and play it. We have Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. I don't have a ton of experience with Nihon Falcom, which is a shame seeing as they kind of invented my favorite genre of video games, which I really have to catch up on their work. Gotta get my hands on a copy of Fact Xanadu at some point, but this is an amazing game with tremendous amounts of world building. It's an RPG that's not exactly perfect. I mean, when you start out, your characters are all kind of tropey. They end up really developing and becoming really in-depth, multifaceted characters, which is fantastic. But early on, that was a bit of a put-off. As well as the fact that the actual, key story to the game doesn't even really kind of start until halfway through, which is more than a little concerning. They really take their time setting up the characters and sort of exploring them and building the world around you. And indeed, this is like the 6th iteration of a series, so there's a lot of backstory and world building they try and cram in left, right, and center, which means this game is going to be an incredibly slow burn. And if that's not your style, then this one might put you off pretty hard, but it gripped me unbelievably quickly. I immediately fell in love with Class 7, and I wanted to explore this entire world. Honestly, I wanted to hop out of the boundaries of the towns and the world and just see what this huge world has in store. And to be fair, I can kind of do that if I go back and play all the other games, although most of them haven't been brought to North America yet, eventually. The combat system to this is somewhat deep, with a chaining system allowing you to link your character to another character to perform follow-up attacks, as well as specialized abilities by combining your characters, which is a ton of fun. And each character's relationship with one another actually does affect ultimately how strong their bond is. You can think of this sort of like the bonus effects to social links from Persona 5. You know, eventually a character will take a lethal blow for you, or will follow up an attack of yours. That sort of thing. It's really, really fascinating to see, and even outside of combat, when you're just doing your daily school kid routine, you have time to spend with other people, but it's finite, so you have to decide which characters you want to spend more time with and develop your relationships with. Do you even want to spend it with your classmates instead of spending with other people? There's tons and tons of stuff in this game, and really the only thing mechanically I don't necessarily like about it is that there is an absolute metric ton of stuff that is just straight up missable if you're not playing with a guide or something, which I don't care so much for that, but I do quite like the game. The only thing I would really say this game could use is a bit of a visual update, but that's Nihon Falcom style. They don't have a huge budget to make their games, so they pack it absolutely to the brim with content, with story, with character, and with gameplay. So while they might not have the budget for a much nicer game graphically, you're getting one hell of a game in return. And you know what? I will trade visuals for a better game any day. And I cannot wait to get into the sequel to this game, which is on my shelf right now, and then the 3rd game, and then the 4th game. I've got a lot of games ahead of me, it seems. That's never a problem, though. Sticking with the theme of anime, we'll move on to number 2, which is one of the best fighting games I've ever played, and a game I started this year off with my buddy and best mate Caleb. We're going with Melty Blood Actress Again, an amazing anime fighter with some of the most goofy character interactions you can imagine, some amazingly fun fight scenes, and just, this might be one of the most well-made fighting games I've ever seen. Honestly, I'm not an expert on fighting games by any means or measure. I honestly don't know what else to say other than it's a great, fun time. And if you like fighting games, this is one to keep an eye out for, except it gets really, really wildly expensive. But that said, if you're into anime fighting games and you've already got your copy of Evil Zone, you better make sure that Melty Blood Actress Again is on your list, because this game is damn fun. And finally, we have number 1, the best game of 2020. This is going to shock no one because it's the only other game I wouldn't stop banging on about that wasn't PSO2, which, as we've established, is disqualified. we of course have Bug Fables: The Everlasting Sapling. This is a game that, similar to Nubo, I think I needed this year. This was a year where I saw multiple people I know pass away. It was a year where I saw a lot of strain put on my relationships with people. It was a year where I've seen so many people in the hospital numerous times and thought I would never see them again. This was a year that, I will make no bones about, I was hit by pretty bad depression. And in spite of all that, this game has the absolute gall to show up and make me grin from ear to ear. This game is a game I absolutely needed this year because it just made me so bloody happy. You want to know what Bug Fables is? Bug Fables is Paper Mario, except it's made not by Nintendo, but people who actually care about Paper Mario because they know what they're doing. Honestly, I think the developers actually actively saw what Nintendo was doing with Paper Mario and how little people cared about that, and how that entire franchise was dying, because Nintendo didn't seem to know to just make the same game, but again. So, good. I really genuinely hope Paper Mario dies, especially after the Origami King. That game was a piece of trash. We got Bug Fables. And, you know, this game is exactly what we wanted. It is a quirky RPG with some excellent writing, a fantastic aesthetic, tremendous soundtrack. Seriously, the soundtrack to this game is absolutely rockin'. Some of the best character writing I have seen in years. The characters in this game are excellently written, and their interactions with one another are fantastic. I genuinely can suspend my disbelief that all these characters are paper-thin bugs based on the way they talk and react to people. I mean, I said this in my review of it, but when your initial two characters show up, they're complete strangers, and when they're forced together, it's just awkward silence. They don't know how to interact with each other, just like how human beings would actually interact. It feels like these were actually written to be, you know, people and not just caricatures of tropes. And that alone takes this game pretty far. Combine that with some genuinely complex, difficult RPG combat at times, some incredibly difficult extra fights. Like, seriously, the bounty fights in this game remind me a lot of, like, well, the bounty fights of Skies of Arcadia. Insanely difficult, which is impressive because Paper Mario's never really had that much of a difficult edge to it. In fact, case in point, I had this one bounty fight that absolutely kicked my ass, and I came up with a plan. This plan was great. I was going to stock up on this one specific item that you had to craft from rare ingredients from other people. I spent hours grinding that stuff, and I was prepared. I went back into that fight. I got my ass completely kicked again, but it seemed like an entirely viable strategy, and that entire time I was grinding, you know, like the worst thing in RPGs, I was having a blast. I love the character designs. I love the enemy designs. I love the combat style. I love the way to power up your own attacks through quick time events, sort of, you know, kind of like classic Paper Mario. I love everything about this game, and there's this absolutely fantastic moment later on where, spoilers for the next 10 seconds, but you get to look out in a telescope and see the world around you, and see how well they thought out this world on both a macro and micro scale. This game is absolutely, truly amazing, and both just because of how hard this year has been, but also just due to the absolute drought of this kind of game, I think I needed this. This game feels like it was basically made specifically for me. And if you love RPGs, if you like well-written stories or interesting characters or a fun world, or even just, you know, fun, quirky games, you owe it to yourself to play Bug Fables. It's a bit steep at $30, but it's worth every penny, and if you can find it on sale, worth it even more. If you take away anything from this video and you only have interest in one game that isn't PSO2, go play that game. It's free. I'm begging you here, check out this game, because the developers deserve every ounce of recognition for what they've done. They deserve every ounce of money they can make from this so that they can make more, because this game is just so amazing and we need as many more of these games as they can put out. Seriously, Bug Fables is my game of the year. It is the best thing I have played in 2020, a year that beat us all down and really just made this world a terrible, sad, drab place to live for a year, and hopefully that's it, and yet this brought a huge amount of light into my days. Bug Fables is truly an amazing game. And that's my game of the year. I hope you enjoyed my list. I apologize for being really late, but like I said, I've been dealing with a lot of technical issues and the depression, which I'm trying to dig myself out of, which sucks, but you know, baby steps. So I apologize for this one being a little bit late, but we got a lot of stuff to look forward to in the new year. But I want to hear what your Game of the Year list is, because I know there was an absolute metric ton of games I haven't played this year. This year was actually pretty slim pickings for me. I didn't get too many games, but, you know, I know there's a lot of really cool games out there I missed, and I would love to hear about them. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, subscribe to the show to see more, because we've always got more content coming, and if you really want to make my day, check out the show's PayPal or Patreon. Support the show any way you can so that I can continue to make awesome lists about awesome games and awesome lists about awful games, and we'll just continue to see how many fun games we can find in this future that can't possibly be as bad as the year we just got through, right? Right? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I hope my videos over this past year have helped get through the horrible sort of faux zombie apocalypse we all survived, and I look forward to making more stuff in the next year, so I hope you continue to watch. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, Internet.